Hey everyone, welcome back. Ever get tripped up on your words in a conversation?
Yeah, actually, even I do sometimes. And this is a good question. Let's take a look at it. It's worth looking into.
Yeah, today we are not giving answers, but explore this. I'll share my struggles and ask how and when native English speakers complete the sentence before they start speaking.
Okay, hopefully this will be interesting for some people. Yeah.
Let's jump right in.
Okay. Hey everybody, CrossTalk FM is an English and Japanese bilingual freestyle podcast. In this podcast, we explore some cross-cultural themes and trends. I'm Andrea.
Hi, I'm Tomoya.
Okay, so on our podcast, we've talked about a lot of topics before, language-wise and otherwise. But today, we're going to be diving into how English learners can speak a little more smoother and reduce pauses in their speaking.
Okay, that's very interesting topic for me because I pause a lot while we talk on this podcast.
Actually, I think that's okay because it probably helps the listeners listen a little more clearly if you have a lot of pauses.
Yes.
It gives people time to hear and process and understand what you're saying. So actually pauses is not too bad.
Okay, thank you for saying that.
Yeah. But in a conversation, like you do want to be more smooth, right?
Yes,
you want to be, not stopping all the time.
そうですね。やっぱりコンバセーションね、なるべくナチュラルなフローで止まらないように話したいですね、英語でね。
Right. So I think you've probably thought about it before, but when do you tend to slow down in your speaking?
Oh man, it's hard to answer because I make pause pretty much everywhere. Like to me, making a sentence in English is like a puzzle.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
You need to choose right noun for the subject and choose the right verb forms.
Yes.
And then you need to also choose the objects that you need to explain more detail.
That's right. Well, actually, at the top of this episode, at the very beginning, you said that you were interested in asking when native speakers, when we're speaking, how do we complete a sentence? How do we process it before we actually start speaking?
Yes.
But actually, we do the same thing. When we're small children and we're learning English, we're learning how to speak, we do exactly the same thing. We need to learn the vocabulary first, and then we know the words for things, like we know the word plant. We need to learn verbs to use with something, and which verbs go with which items or which actions. And then we have to learn the correct form of the verb. Is it a past word? If we're talking about something we did yesterday, we need to use the proper verb for yesterday. It has to be a past tense. If we're talking about something we want to do, it needs to be a future, I want to do something, right? Possibility, expressing possibility. So even native speakers as small children, we have to learn the same things. It is like a puzzle. It is exactly like a puzzle. For us too. Seriously, for us too.
Yeah. I think, there's a secret. I thought that there's a secret or something.
Not really. I think the difference is, native speakers, we learn how to do this when we're 1 and 2 years old. People start speaking around 2. But before you start speaking, you're hearing your mother and your father, talk constantly. So your brain is processing this, but you yourself start speaking at around 2 years. And then you start making sentences around 2.5, 3. But for native speakers, we're babies. But for you, you're not a native speaker, you're an English learner. When did you start learning Japanese or English? Probably junior high school.
Junior high school, but it's kind of obligation. I wasn't willing to learn English.
Right. That's pretty standard.
Yeah.
But let's say even if you were interested in English, at that point you're already 14 years old. So you're 14 years behind me, language-wise, as far as English goes.
Yes.
And I'm 14 years behind you, Japanese-wise, right? So it's like playing a game of catch-up, right? You're trying to catch up to native English speaker speed.
So,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, it just takes a long time.
Yeah, of
It
course.
takes a lot of practice, a lot of study. Yeah.
Yes. So let's start talking about part of speech first.
Okay.
A part of speech is 品詞 in Japanese.
Okay, that's how you say part of speech?
Yeah.
Okay, I learned some new Japanese today. All right.
Totally.
Didn't know that.
まあ動詞とかね、名詞とかいろいろあると思うけど。
Okay.
So what part of speech is difficult for English learners? What do you think about?
Actually, I was really good at grammar and spelling. For native speakers...
For English learners.
For English learners. Okay, for English learners learning English, I'm going to guess and say it's probably verbs.
Uh-huh.
Because we have a lot of verb tenses in English.
Yes.
And sometimes they're very similar, and it's difficult to know which verb form to use in which type of situation.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Right? And I wonder how to choose verb forms quickly. There's many way to say, similar things. So you can say like, I'm going to do blah, 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 or I will do something, blah, blah, blah. These kind of things you have to pick. But how you pick quickly, I mean.
Quickly is the difficult part, because I think if you want to be able to speak quickly and also correctly or accurately, we say, you need to know the verb forms. You need to study grammar, basically, which, no one wants to hear that, because grammar is very boring and people don't want to study grammar and it's difficult to remember. But if you want to speak quickly, be able to choose the best verb pattern, the best tense, you need to know the grammar so that you know what to choose. Right?
Okay.
Sorry, it's not a sexy answer. It's not a nice answer that you want to hear, but that's really the truth. Right? But it's the same in Japanese. Like, I have trouble with Japanese verbs.
Uh-huh.
And I make a lot of mistakes, honestly, in Japanese.
Yeah. Even to me, I make mistakes on Japanese.
Oh, really?
Grammar-wise, yes.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes I kind of, なんて言えばいいんだろうみたいな.
Okay.
Happens a lot to me.
Okay.
So, especially like when I talk to customers, like I need to choose, right phrases, wordings that should be like sounds polite.
Right. That's, again, probably a matter of study and practice.
Yes.
If you were doing that every day, all day long, you'd get very good at it very quickly.
I think so.
But you don't do it every day, probably. So then you have to stop and think about it. Right?
そうね。
Yeah.
まあ日本語でもね、やっぱりお客さんとかね、慣れないシチュエーションだとやっぱりどうしても言葉の終わりとかが特になんかもぞもぞっていうかなんて終わろうみたいな。
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Like, how do I get this to stop? Yeah.
ございますか、いたしましょうか。Many things happens. Even Japanese.
Okay.
And when do this? Let's talk about the main issue that I wanted to talk. When you decide on the complete sentence you are going to say before speaking your answer.
As a native speaker, I don't think we do think about the complete sentence. We kind of make it up as we're speaking.
Oh.
We don't always... Yeah. I think, because Japanese people are learning English as a second language, I think, for example, if we're having a conversation, I ask you a question, you listen, comprehend it, you process it, and then you think of your answer, and you're thinking of the whole sentence. You're probably thinking, okay, I need to use this subject or this noun, this verb, and then this object, and then these adjectives. Or you make a whole sentence in your brain, and then you answer.
Mm-hmm.
For native speakers, we don't necessarily think of the whole answer.
Oh.
Because it's, again, we're 14 years ahead of you. So we don't need to think about every single word in advance. We can kind of ad-lib as we go.
そうですよね。
Yeah, it's like in Japanese too. Like you don't think of every single word you want to say. You just kind of speak as you go.
そうですよね。
But if I'm speaking Japanese, I do have to think about 誰がどうしたでどこで何を right? You have to think of the proper sequence. Yeah. So I'm in the opposite boat. Yeah.
Okay.
But as native speakers, we just speak as we go. You don't necessarily have to have a whole complete sentence in your head as you're speaking.
I see.
Yeah. And as a learner, once you're at a certain level, like an ability level or a proficiency level, you don't need to do that either. You can just start out speaking and then make it up as you go along, right?
まあそうですよね。
Yeah.
Yeah, but oftentimes I have to choose right words, verb forms,
Sure.
I thought there's a secret behind completing sentences.
No, I don't think it's a secret. I think it's a matter of just practicing and becoming better at it gradually.
Okay.
And probably everyone else knows, in order to become good at anything, it's practice constantly, right? You're not going to get good at English in 1 year.
Yes.
Maybe 20 years.
Yes.
The same with guitar. You're not going to be great at guitar in 1 year. If you practice every day, maybe in 10 years or 15 years, you'll be very good, but not in 1 year.
Yeah.
Right? Language is the same way. It's a matter of lots of practice, a little bit of practice every day, consistently.
I see. But to be honest, one of my struggles, I often pause, especially the last part of sentence in speech.
Okay.
I checked the previous episode.
Okay.
And then I found where I stopped.
Okay.
So these are lists I have paused from the episodes. So I literally checked what I have said.
Okay.
And I find out where was the gap between sentence. The first one, if he told the owner in person, and I paused, the extra fee would be removed.
Okay.
So I think I couldn't come up the extra fee right away. So I made like a 1 or 2 second pause.
Actually, though, the way that you split that sentence into 2 parts is correct. So if he told the owner in person, that's the joken, right? That's the situation. Then this thing would happen. Then the extra fee would be removed. So even in proper grammar, we would put a pause there, actually.
あ、そうなんだ。
Yes, we'd put a comma, which means a pause, if we're writing this out, for example.
But I think I thought I paused long.
Too long? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 次は she wrote a review about how bad, and then I made a pause. This hotel is.
Okay. She read a review about how bad this hotel is. Okay.
Yes.
Normally, I would add the pause, she wrote a review about how bad this hotel is. I'd put it, she wrote a review, pause, about how bad this hotel is. But I see what you mean. You're probably trying to think of the end of the sentence.
So.
Yeah.
やっぱり僕の弱点としてね、個人的な弱点としてセンテンスの最後を決めるところが出てこなかったりするんだよね。
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to think what kind of advice would be good. Any more examples that you can give? Maybe one more?
One more, sure. This sounds easy, but it was a little hard. Okay, how about this? I want to know potential troubles. I want to know potential, and I post troubles beforehand.
Okay, that's a bit unnatural.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you had trouble finding the object in that one, maybe.
そうですね. So it's not always object.
Okay.
That I have been struggled with. So it's kind of always last section of sentence.
Whatever comes in the end of the sentence. Okay.
Maybe I was thinking like, is this information correct?
Maybe.
Especially we were on a podcast.
Yeah. What you did right now, actually, you added like, and that's okay. That sounds very native. What did you say? What did you say just now? You said, we can go back and rewind. You said you had like instead of the empty spot, you put like in there. And that's actually what we native people do. If we have a sentence, we're thinking of what to say, we have the topic, we need a few more seconds to just think about what to say at the end, we'll put a like as like a space killer. I call it a space killer, but like a filler to kind of, block that hole in your sentence.
Yes. そうね。
You can do that, yeah, which you just did, yeah.
Thank you. つまりちょっとここでは答えは出ないというかね、もうちょっと練習とか、英語のね話す練習をしろっていうことかもしれないけど、人それぞれその弱点っていうかねあると思うんですけども。
Yeah, actually, and I've never noticed that you make pauses, so it can't be too horrible. If it were really, really bad, I probably would have noticed it.
僕がやっぱ自分に厳しくではないけど、気になるから、そうやってねちょっと過去のエピソードわざわざねチェックして自分に厳しくジャッジ採点をねしてるっていうのはあるんだけど、そういうこともねたまには必要なのかもしれない。
Yeah, I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. I think if your English were really fraught or really heavy with pauses, I would have noticed, and I probably would have said something.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Maybe I would secretly try to correct it or something. I don't know. I don't know what I would do, but I haven't noticed.
でももしかしたら僕が気にする以上にその他の人は気にしてないよっていうこともあるかもしれないです。
じゃあそういうことで言ってる。I don't think it's so bad.
Okay, thank you for saying that. Okay, I think we talked a lot about how to make your speech feel natural.
Yeah, I think one thing that we didn't really talk about is kind of planning ahead. For example, if you know you're going to be in a situation where you need to say certain things, you can kind of plan out what you want to say in your head before you get into the situation. So that's one way that you can reduce pauses. In your case, you make templates. We have kind of a structure that we're following. You have example sentences to use. So I don't think your pauses are that bad, actually. For example, a good example of planning ahead is when I was a Japanese student, we would often have to go to parties with people. And I know if I go to, a dinner party, I have to introduce myself to new people. So in my head, I would plan out how to do my self-introduction. Okay, I'm going to say my name. I'm going to say where I'm from. My pronunciation is really bad on this word, so I'm going to be careful when I say this word. And I kind of plan out what I'm going to say, the order I'll say it in, and the words that I know I need to be careful with, or that I need to improve on, right? And then, you do it many, many times, and then gradually you get better.
なるほど。
So that's one technique that you can do.
先にちょっとね考えておくってことですね。ある程度こういうことを言うんだろうなっていうのをね。
そうね。
そのね話す前であったり話してる最中でも。
Sure. Or for example, if you let's say you live in Kyoto and there's a lot of foreign tourists in Kyoto, you can expect someone's going to ask you directions. How do I get to Kinkakuji? Something like this. In your mind, you can kind of plan, okay, if someone asks me this, I can reply this way. I can say this, or, I can use these words. You can kind of plan in advance.
I see. I see. あと僕個人的にはもしかしたらそのアドバイスになるか分かんないけど、そのポーズにある程度慣れるっていうのもね、一つの理由手かもしれないね。なんか思ったよりあなたが思っているより他の人は感じない、その長く感じないよみたいなね。だからちょっとのサイレンスを楽しむというか。考える時間をねもうちょっと長くしてもいいかもねっていうのが、あるかもしれない。
That's fine.
Okay, speaking of struggle and solution, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Have you ever faced similar challenges? And what helped you improve?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that because I think, we're all language learners in some way and we all have struggles. And so it's good to share information. And speaking of sharing, we're not just a podcast here. We're building a community. So please do sign up for our mailing list and we'll discuss episodes, share stories, connect with other listeners, and we're even planning to host some English language workshops someday soon. So let's build a community together.
I have a last question for you, Anderson.
Okay. All right.
Do pauses in conversation always indicate a lack of fluency?
No, not at all. I think it can be like what we've been talking about. Maybe the person just needs a moment to collect their ideas together. For me, as an English teacher or a tutor, I pause on purpose to give my students time to listen and process. So pauses are necessary, actually. I don't think it indicates a lack of fluency at all.
そうです。大切なことを言うときもやっぱりゆっくり話すっていうのはね、確かにね。
Yes.
日本語でも大事だもん。
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, not at all. It's fine.
Alright, guys, that's all for it today. Hope you find it helpful.
This is CrossTalk signing off, bringing you English your way every week.
Keep listening and keep shining. Bye.
Bye.